Hi guys, good day. I would like to congratulate you for actually finishing the previous videos that I have posted. We have discussed last time about the different or the 21st century assessment, and I almost forgot that the types of assessment is included within this week. So that's why I have this short presentation for you, Char Short. I hope that this would be shorter than I thought. No, this is a continuation of what we have discussed last time. Let me share my screen. Okay, let me start my slideshow. And we are now discussing on the different types of assessments. So what are the different types of assessments? So again, when we say assessment, we're assessing the students. We are trying to know if the students are doing their best inside our class, if our students are learning from us, and if our students are improving. If not, it's our action, or it's our what they call this. It's our initiation or initiative to do something about it as teachers, because we are trying to have this goal that every student will learn from us. So again, our topic for today is all about types of assessment, and this is included in your preliminary examination. So types of assessment. Next, we have, first, of course, we have the intended learning outcome, or the objective that I want you to attain or achieve at the end of this discussion. First is to distinguish, the intended learning outcome only, since it is the consummation. We have this. At the end of the class, we're expected to distinguish the different types of assessment and relate it to the learning outcomes. So what are the different types of assessment, and how will you relate it to our learning outcomes? So assessment, let us define an assessment first. Now let us review what is really an assessment before we proceed. Assessment is an essential and powerful tool in the teaching and learning process. Why? Because we're trying to find the different purposes. We're trying to find if our instructions, if our actions, if our goals inside our class are effective, or if our way of implementing the lessons is effective. That is why assessment is an essential and powerful tool in the teaching and learning process. Okay, so since there are different types of assessment, let's go on. Are you ready? I hope you're ready. So if you're ready, kindly take down notes, important notes, if it's kinahanglan. And since I will be posting it on YouTube, if there are some ideas or points that I have missed, you're free to add yours. Okay. First type of assessment is we have the traditional and authentic. So we are partnering katong the same assessments and unsang ilaang differences, main differences. Okay, first is traditional and authentic assessment. Let us define first what is a traditional assessment. Now, traditional assessment are the conventional methods of testing. What I mean by traditional, we are using it before. Somewhat nasa traditional teaching and learning of a traditional classroom. So we're including the quiz, exam, paper. And it is still being done nowadays. But of course, we have to do something, varied learning experiences. We have to apply this inside our classroom, since we are also in the 21st century. And kung we take traditional assessment, we are including the standardized tests, most state achievement tests, and high school graduation examination. So those can be considered as traditional assessment. Conventional method of testing. Mga pamaagi sa testing before. Nga, some of it are ginagamit pagyapon nato karon. Now let's move on to the authentic assessment for learning. What is the definition of authentic assessment? Kung may authentic, very authentic ni siya. What are we saying? What are we trying to tell? A real world assessment is meant to focus on the impact of one's work in real or realistic. Kung realistic, we're talking about authentic. Like, dili na to gina-apply ang exam, but we are trying to find out, we are trying to assess the students in a more realistic way. So in the real world, authentic assessment, there may be or may not be mere writing. So hands-on, minds-on, because we believe that students or children or learners learn better if we are also applying hands-on learning. For example, if we are also meant to focus on the impact of one's work in real or realistic context, we're applying the role play, the reporting inside the class. We are trying to make everything learner-centered. Okay, we're trying to make everything learner-centered, whereas students, we are including them in the real-world experience. And of course, at the same time, we are assessing these students. That is why appeal siya sa authentic assessment for learning. We are assessing in a more realistic manner. Dili lang kay exam, dili lang kay paper and pencil test. We are trying to assess through their actions, through their performance, through the outcomes or the outputs they have made inside our class. That is an authentic assessment, and this assessment is being used nowadays, since the learners are progressive and are diverse. Okay? So let us differentiate the two assessments or the two assessment methods. We have the traditional assessment. Cumulative traditional assessment is generally relies on forced choice. Yeah, right? Forced choice. Written measures. All are written. An authentic assessment, we promote integration of various written and performance measures. So, dili lang kay written, but also na mga performance measures. Second, relies on proxy measures of student learning to represent target skills. Whereas, humayon ka authentic assessment, we are trying to rely on direct measure of target skills. Wala nang paligoy-ligoy pa, wala nang proxy measures. Third is encourages memorization of correct answers. Why? Because since we're using the paper and pencil test, so the learners tend to memorize the possible answer that would happen or that would go out during examination. So, ma-encourage na naman nimo nga mag-memorize ang mga students and wala nimo na-activate ang ilang HOTS. Mental authentic assessment, it encourages divergent thinking and generating possible answers. So the students will try to think, what are the possible answers? If I will be applying it into my real life situation, what is I think the possible na pwede ba ito? Siya. Fourth is goals is to measure acquisition of knowledge lang. But kung may authentic enhanced development of meaningful skills are included, and of course enhanced at the same time, dili lang kay cognitive mo na develop. Next is traditional curriculum direct assessments. Kung may authentic assessment directs curriculum. So ang curriculum before, it directs on the assessment. Ngayon karon assessment directs on the curriculum. We have to know if the curriculum is effective so that it would be easier for us to think of ways on how to change the curriculum, reconstruct, or whatsoever. And if nakita ba nato nga ang curriculum is effective sa ato ang mga students. Next is emphasis on developing a body of knowledge, whereas in authentic, emphasis on ensuring proficiency at the real-world tasks. Promotes what knowledge ang traditional, pero sa authentic, how? You would be asked how this happened, how we are going to do this and that. So, ang imong skills must ma-activate, and you are encouraged to do something. You're encouraged to be more realistic or to be more productive and skilled. Next is provide a one-time snapshot of student understanding. Anong one-time? Because traditional assessment or traditional teaching and learning process, the teacher is the only one who discuss in front of you and mastora to sa imong short-term memory. Whereas kung may authentic assessment, examination of learning over time. Why? Because since we are applying it on our hands-on learning, the retention of learning is way better than the traditional assessment. Traditional assessment, it emphasizes competition. So ang ma-emphasize sa traditional assessment, competition lang, because since traditional siya and the teacher is the only one who discuss inside the class and the activities given, it will make you think that, oh, I have to do this and that para mas dako ang scores ako ang classmate. While the authentic assessment, if it emphasizes cooperation, so the students will be more cooperative because they will be doing this activity in a certain class, and then their output will be graded. So nga na siya. Kung may traditional target simplistic skills lang, kung may authentic, we are preparing the students for ambiguities and exceptions that are found in realistic problem settings. So, ma-prepare sila kung sila possible nga buhatan sa realistic problem setting. And priority in summative outcomes or product, whereas authentic, priority on the learning sequence or process. Okay? Next is, we have the 3 broad categories of authentic assessment. 3 broad categories. We have the context of the assessment. Context of the assessment, we are trying to find out the realistic activity or content. If the activities or contents given are realistic. That is the important one in the assessment. Authentic rather. We are trying to make things more realistic. The task is performance-based, of course. Sa authentic performance-based, yun na siya makabantay mo, napasayawan mo o kanang mga Philippine folk dances, pa-reportan mo sa ito nga because the teachers want you to experience the experiences of being a teacher or na mga role plays, na mga certain activities nga performance-based. And of course, cognitively complex. Why cognitively complex? Because it should activate your higher order thinking skills. Second one is the role of the student. It is very important that the rights of the student inside the classroom is acknowledged or are acknowledged. Why? Because a defense of the answer or product is required, of course. So if your student presented you this output, it is your responsibility to ask the student to defend the answer given, the output given, the product submitted, because it's your way of trying to find out if that student really understood what he or she has done. The assessment is formative, of course, and students collaborate with each other or with the teacher. That is why authentic assessment is way better than traditional because they are more cooperative and collaborative with each other. Dili kay competitive. Third is the scoring, and it's very important that the scoring is well developed or the scoring criteria are known or student developed. Now, we have sa una, may mga activities, projects given by our teacher. We do not know how they graded our activities. How do they put grades into my project ngayon? I expect 95, 85. How did it happen? So karon, in our authentic way of assessment, we have the criteria presented or the rubrics for a certain activity. This is, of course, to let you know that this is the things that you're going to do or to consider when doing your activities. And we can also ask your help as students, or you can also ask your students help. Kabantay pa ng teacher, okay class, what is our first criterion? Okay, very good, voice. Pila yung hatag nga points, ani? Next, na mo singgit ang costume, ma'am, costume. Okay, pila ito yung hatag points. How about the content? Okay ra ba ninyo? Okay, nga na dapat we have to include the students in our scoring criteria. Second one, multiple indicators or portfolios are used for scoring, right? So there are certain indicators and the teachers would certainly let us make our own portfolio for us or for these to be used as for scoring. Third is the performance expectation is mastery, of course. Di yun mawala ng criterion na mastery every performance because it would help the teachers determine if that certain student or if that certain group of students really mastered, really understood the topics or the activity given to them. So these are the three broad categories of authentic assessment. We have first the context of the assessment, the role of the student, and the scoring. Okay, can we proceed? If we can proceed, kindly drink your water, at least 3 sips lang. So now let's move on to the 4 basic characteristics of authentic assessment. So these are the major characteristics of authentic assessment that we should internalize. First is the task should be representative of performance in the field. So dapat, ang task nga itong ginahatag sa itong students, it should present what kind of performance are we going to let them perform. Second, attention should be paid to teaching and learning the criteria for assessment. So the criteria or the rubrics given should be connected to the teaching and learning. And of course, we have to focus our attention here. Third, self-assessment should play great role. At the end of the activity, you will ask your student, okay, please rate yourself according to your performance. Because they themselves know asa sila nagkulang. Right? Fourth is, when possible, students should present their work publicly and defend it. That's why we have the thesis defense. Is their work. And if possible, if okay, they will present it in public, they have to defend it. It's our way of trying to find out if our students are really or have really mastered the lessons or have really understood everything. So those are the 4 basic characteristics of authentic assessment. So please be mindful and please bear in mind of this. Next is the best uses of authentic assessment. We're trying to dig deeper about authentic assessment because the authentic assessment class is the kind of assessment that we are going or that we are using nowadays, right? So these are the best uses of authentic assessment stated by Miller last 2010. First is the authentic assessments are direct measures. What do you mean by direct measures? Okay, let's read its main purpose. Its main purpose is to use the acquired knowledge and skills in the real world. Among direct measures siya because what we have learned, what we have conceived, what knowledge that we have acquired, and what skills we have mastered, ato na siyang i-apply or gamiton sa real world. Example, conducting a science experiment, hypothesis testing, developing feasibility study, and calculating savings. So we have acquired knowledge on how to conduct a science experiment, right? And we were taught on how to conduct a science experiment. So we are applying it into direct measures or into the real world. Next, authentic assessments capture constructive nature of learning. What do you mean by constructive? In a constructivist point of view, the learners will be using their pre-existing knowledge or their schema to the new learning ngayong nag-grasp karang adlaw to create a certain or creative knowledge, to create a more meaningful nga knowledge or learning. When I constructivism, we are applying our new knowledge to the knowledge that we have learned nowadays. So students must be asked to demonstrate that they have accurately constructed meaning about what they have been taught. So the students will be asked, of course, to demonstrate a certain topic, a certain thing na dapat nila i-demonstrate that they have currently or accurately discussed or na sila na-create nga meaning from that because they have connected your schema and their new learning. Tapos, katong meaningful nga learning nga ilang na achieve, ila atong gina-apply sa demonstration. And this is a very important nga way no of our teaching and learning process nga na constructivism din nga mahitabo. Next is authentic assessments integrate teaching, learning, and assessments. So authentic assessments measures students' ability to apply the knowledge or skills as a vehicle for student learning. Now in the authentic, your vehicle for your learning is your ability and skills. Ability to apply the knowledge and skills. Mo ginayon ang basis of for us teachers to give a certain assessment or give a certain score. Ba? Example, problem solving and decision making skills. Right? So, itong integrate ang atong teaching and learning and assessment together. Fourth is authentic assessments provide multiple paths to demonstration. Authentic tasks tend to give the students more freedom on how will they demonstrate what they have learned. Why? Because kung teacher-centered siya, the teacher will be only the one to be followed. And kung may authentic assessment, the students are given the right or the chance to perform or demonstrate what you have learned. That is why it gives you more freedom as students and it provides multiple paths to demonstration. It depends on how you demonstrate and apply that you have learned, what you have learned, at least you followed what steps you have learned, or at least you have understood everything. And this is a very important thing. Kinahanglan nato keep in mind. So these are certain attributes of traditional performance assessments. Performance vis-a-vis traditional, vis-a-vis traditional. Beleskin, Gaspar, and Muller. A bit not updated, huh? Attribute, kumayintag assessment activity. Sa traditional, we are selecting a response. Pero kumayintag performance, sa authentic, we are performing a task. Nature of activity, contriver siya, pero kumayintag performance, emulates real life. Kung cognitive level, knowledge or comprehension lang. Pero kung authentic, we're applying, analyzing, and synthesizing everything. Kung may development of solution, teacher structured siya, pero kung may performance, student structured, you're given the right to give or present your solutions to the class. Next is objectivity of scoring. Easily achieved, but kung may performance, difficult to achieve. Why? Because you will have to run or you will have to undergo several measures or several activities before you achieve. And evidence of mastery, indirect siya ang traditional, pero ang atong performance, very direct. Number 2, we have the formative and summative assessments. See, formative assessment is a continuous and several assessment is done during the instructional process for the purpose of improving. Remember, kung formative assessment, it is done during the instructional process. And evidences are gathered throughout the instructional process so that we all know if the students are learning during the discussion and if we will continue this or not. A tool for the teachers to determine what they need to know to move the learner forward. So if makita na to ang learners are improving and that learners are listening in our class, then we have to move forward. So it occurs at 3 points, ang atong formative assessment during instruction, between lessons, and between units. So please take note of these 3 and please take note of the importance of the formative assessment. Next is the summative assessment. The word summative. Summative is very common to all of us. After a certain lesson or after you have discussed a certain chapter or unit, then it is called a summative assessment. These are administered at the end of the instruction, as it provides a snapshot of students' knowledge at that particular time. So evaluation of an individual learner used for judgments or decisions about the individual. This is when we see if the learner has improved or not, or nabay kinahanglan nato i-change nato ang lessons. Verification of achievement for individuals, motivation of individuals to maintain or improve performance, certification of grades and or promotion. So these are very important things that we should remember when we say summative assessments. Okay, di na natin magkuanani, di na natin purpose sa formative assessment, we are providing ongoing feedback and adjustment to instruction. So after this topic, magpa-quiz ka, magpa-oral ka so that you will know if na by kinahanglan na i-adjust and makahatag ka ongoing feedback sa your students. Kung may summative assessment, we are documenting the student learning at the end of an instructional segment. So when conducted during and after instruction, ang summative after instruction. Student involvement encouraged sa formative because during pa siya pero sa summative discouraged na. Okay. Teacher role to provide intermediate summative to measure student achievement and give grades. Learning emphasize deep understanding, application, and reasoning sa formative. Pero kung may summative, we are trying to emphasize the knowledge and the comprehension. Structure, flexible, adaptable, per summative, rigid, and highly structured. Techniques, informal, sa formative, sa summative, formal. Impact of learning sa formative, strong, positive, and long-lasting. Pero kung may summative, weak yun na siya at the end naman sa instruction, and mostly ma-store na sa students saya ang short-term memory. Third is norm and criterion-referenced assessment. Third, norm and criterion-referenced assessment. When we say norm-referenced assessment, it describes the student's performance in the class by comparing others. So we are comparing the performance of a certain student in your class to his or her classmates. That is a norm-reference assessment. But coming on to criterion-referenced assessment, we are describing the performance of the students without reference to the performance of others. So it is an individual reference assessment. So dili na to gina-compare ang performance sa isa ka student sa others, which uses na ay sa ato ang mga gipanggama ng criteria or sa ato ang gipanggama na achieve or intended learning outcome. So which will you prefer? Norm reference or criterion? Okay, I think that you are choosing the criterion reference assessment, right? Because you don't want to be compared with the other students. But if and only if we're applying the norm reference, if you know that you're being compared and you see that nakita nimo, or you see that nakita, you have seen that you have not improved, unlike your classmates, that you will be trying your best to improve. That's one of the advantages also of using the norm reference assessment. Okay? Okay, di na ni siya. Fourth is contextualized and decontextualized assessment. Kani, kinahanglan gyapon niyo ni-studyhan, pero dili na nato ni sa discussion. Okay, contextualized and decontextualized assessment. This is one of the most ginagkalibugan sa mga students. O saan siya nga type sa assessment? Contextualized and decontextualized. When I say contextualized assessment, it really focuses on the student's construction of functioning knowledge and the student's performance in application of knowledge in the real work. Pero kung may decontextualized, it only includes written exams and term papers that are only suitable for assessing and declarative knowledge. So, dili siya direct nga connection sa real-life context. Kaya ga-focus ra siya sa written exams and term papers or mga written or declarative knowledge. Nga detached or dili siya attached sa real work context. That is why much better if we will apply the contextualized assessment in our classroom, because again, it focuses on the real work context of the discipline area. Okay, I hope nasabtan si contextualized and decontextualized. Next is analytic. This is the last. Analytic and holistic assessment. Kung may analytic assessment class, it really focuses on the specific approach in the assessment of learning outcomes. It really focuses on the specific approach in the assessment of learning outcomes. Why? Because you are given feedbacks on how you are doing on each aspect of the specific task. Very specific analytic. And it is very, very specific based on the importance of your performance. Pero kung may holistic, we're talking about the whole. We're talking about the assessing, the global approach. We're assessing your learning outcome. It could be in the form of reflection papers, journals, peer assessment, self-assessment, group presentation, and portfolio. We are including the whole. Okay, we are trying to assess the global approach. We are trying to use the reflection papers to know if you have learned about the whole topic. We are using the journals. We are using the assessment from your peers so that you will know that ingani ka sa klase, presentations, and portfolio. So big na kind holistic. But the analytic is very specific because we are trying to find out the specific approach in the assessment of a learning outcome, made specific based on the importance of the performance. Okay, so that is the difference between analytic and holistic. Again, we have these different assessments. First is we have the traditional authentic assessments. Second one is the I forgot formative and summative assessment. Third is or are the norm reference assessment and criterion reference assessment. Fourth, we have the contextualized and decontextualized assessments. And lastly, we have the analytic and holistic assessments. So if you have questions about these topics or the different types of assessments, please do not hesitate to contact me on our FB group or in our FB group chat. And also, our preliminary exam for this is in the form of an interactive quiz. So everyone, please do not forget to study this topic, and I would like to congratulate in advance you all for finishing the whole videos. So congratulations and bye.